My name is Philip Bish. I'm an analyst and intelligent investor, and I'm joined here by fellow analyst Mitchell Sneddon. Hi Mitchell.
G'day Phil.
Today we're going to be talking about Hunter Hall. Over the Christmas period, there's a lot of action happening at Hunter Hall. Peter Hall resigned and there was a subsequent share sale after that. But before we go into the details, Mitch, can you give us an overview of Hunter Hall, just how it's structured?
Sure. So Hunter Hall, the stock code is HHL. It is a fund manager. That is the business there. So they have a handful of unlisted managed funds. In total, they manage approximately 1.1 billion, or at last kind of reported. A part of that, though, is also an investment mandate from a listed investment company. HHV is the stock code, Hunter Hall Global Value. So that makes up approximately 340 million of the funds under management. So it's a significant portion of that. So with Hunter Hall, the fund manager, you've got a handful of funds there, and then of course the big contract with the listed investment company. Now, Peter Hall was the founder of Hunter Hall. And he was the chief investment officer and the CEO. So when he announced his sudden resignation, it of course sent through some shockwaves through the business, and I'd say ruined many people's holiday break.
Okay, so I'll go into that now. Just in terms of the series of events on Wednesday, and this was after the Christmas Boxing Day holiday, Peter announcement came through. The shares of Hunter Hall International went into a trading halt. The announcement was Peter Hall had resigned. Then on the Friday, announcement came through that the company said that they were, quote, pleased to announce that there are a number of parties interested in buying some or all of the shares in Hunter Hall. So Hunter Hall International, that is. So at this point, investors, shareholders may have really got quite interested because they were thinking that there would be a takeover for the company, potentially there would be a premium on the price. But later that day, another announcement came through saying that Peter Hall had sold a portion of his shares to Washington Soul Pattinson for $1. So the initial share sale was 19.9% of the total shareholding of Hunter Hall International. But there was also, Peter had an extra 24% that he was also going to sell for $1 to Washington Soul Pattinson. So then that was unless a superior offer came along. So with the share price trading at around $3.10, selling them for $1 doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Not the most attractive takeover offer that investors might have envisioned there.
No. So with this, Peter Hall was basically selling his shares for a third of the price. I think it was roughly around, there's going to be a personal loss of around 25 million for him in the sale. So basically it doesn't seem to make sense, but we assume that there's logic behind it. So Mitch, how do you make sense of it?
It is difficult to make sense of when you see something trading at $3.10 or thereabouts, and then 19% of the company is sold at $1. To me, it's just, of course, we're just purely speculating here on the motivations behind that price. But you would have to think, I'd say, at this point in time, after founding the business, running the business for such a long period of time, I'd just say perhaps money was not the motivation for Peter. Clearly not the motivation for Peter when he has left so much on the table. And perhaps it's more making sure that the continuation of the business goes on for shareholders of HHL and for investors that are invested in the unlisted managed funds. And so making sure that a large portion of the business is in good, solid hands, and perhaps that's what he's seeing with Soul Patts, who have a long history. I think they've been listed since 1903, a long history of adding value and being known as value investors.
Okay, so to date it seems like existing shareholders have lost out because the share price has gone from $3.10 down to $2.50. Do you think the price will recover back to $3-ish?
Well, there's still a lot to play out. So we don't know really what is going to happen if Peter sells the rest of his stake, about approximately 25%, to Washington H. Soul Patts for $1, which that deal is still on the table, and Peter can still make that decision. And it's stated that unless a superior offer comes along now, is that going to be superior in dollar value wise, or is it superior in what the shareholder can help bring to the table for the business? What's in Peter's mind? Who knows? I don't think it's, once again, motivated by money. And then, of course, Washington H. Soul Patts just yesterday put in their bidder statement to offer to buy out the remaining shares in the business at $1. Now, Peter has been quoted I can't remember if it was in the Fin Review or maybe the Australian, as stating to shareholders to not do what he did and go along and sell their shares for $1 and take up that offer. So there's still a lot to play out, and of course then we can have other bids come in as well. So it's a very interesting time for shareholders, but I guess what we need to consider is this business is a funds management business. It makes its money on funds under management and charging management fees on that, and of course getting performance fees on the funds under management as well. And so what investors need to look at is, what's the worst case scenario look for this business if Peter Hall has left? It's the name on the door. It's the name that all the shareholders and investors are familiar with. What does that mean for the outflows of the funds under management? And this is where the LIC is really, really important to this business. Because that listed investment company is a closed-ended fund, that money is not going anywhere. Well, for now, it's a 25-year contract. It's still got quite a significant time period to run on that contract. I think it goes up to 2029. So that is still there, but then that still leaves another, say, 700 million up in the air, and that's a lot, and that's a significant portion of the revenue that Hunter Hall HHL receives. So what is this business worth without Peter Hall and without knowing the potential outflows that has caused? Now, I did get a chance to speak with the team at Hunter Hall the other day, and I asked them, have the phones been running hot? And they actually said no, they haven't. And putting my skeptical hat on, of course that's what they're going to say, but they're confident in retaining funds under management.
Okay, Mitch, so what are the next steps? I believe a bidder statement has gone out.
That's correct. That went out yesterday, or depending on when this gets released, it was the 11th of January. And Hunter Hall has formed an independent board, an independent committee to assess the offer, and they'll release their findings and make a recommendation to the shareholders. In the meantime, they've said to the shareholders not to do anything. They can seek, of course, to go out and seek financial advice, but in the meantime, it's to the advice from that independent board is to sit tight until they reach their findings. You could have imagined that it would be hard to recommend something that they take it up at a dollar when the share price is currently $2.25 or $2.50. You're taking quite a significant haircut there. Of course, in the bidder statement, which I read just earlier, the reasons why that were put forth, why you would take up the offer, were to remove those unknowns. If it's not if Soul Patts does not get the majority, then it still leaves Hunter Hall there open for speculation. So you can take the dollar and know what's going to happen, or you can decline it, have the share price continue running where it is potentially, and then who knows what will happen.
Yeah. Excellent. So, Mitch, should investors in the unit trust be concerned by developments?
Okay, Phil, it depends on why the investors in those managed funds came to the business in the first place. Now, if it was to do with purely Peter's stock picking ability, then that's now gone with Peter. But if it's there for the ethical investment side of things, and that is going to remain, even if Soul Patts do end up acquiring all the shares, they have said they intend to keep the people and the culture and the investment philosophy the same. So but then of course there is no doubting that there is a difference between Peter's investment philosophy and his approach to that of the new Chief Investment Officer, or the interim Chief Investment Officer, James McDonald. Now, James has been around the company for a long time, since 2003, and has worked alongside Peter for a long time. But you can get a sense of the difference between Peter's investment approach and James's investment approach. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can look at the portfolio James manages specifically himself, which is the Global Equity Trust. You can see that on the Hunter Hall website. There's a portfolio on the Hunter Hall website as well that Peter, for the last 12 months, has specifically managed, and that's the High Conviction portfolio. So if you have a look at the holdings in that compared to the holdings in the Global Equity Trust that James manages, you can see the differences. And of course then you can see the differences in the HHV, the listed investment company, as well. If you look at the top 10 holdings, you can see in the Global Equity Trust, St. Barbara is not there, Certex is not there. So those companies that you'd probably consider to be slightly higher in a higher risk category are not in the Global Equity Trust, but they certainly were in Peter's concentrated portfolio and in the listed investment company. And even the chairman of Hunter Hall, Kevin Eli, has been quoted in one of the papers as saying the investment approach of the remaining team is more risk adverse than Peter's investment approach. So there will be changes there. Now, look for within the listed investment company for the investment team to sit down, look at the holdings that Peter had brought into the portfolio, assess them individually. Some may remain, depending on their view of them, of course, but some may go. But that'll be a case-by-case basis.
So excellent, thank you, Mitch. So interesting times at Hunter Hall. So thank you and goodbye.
So as a near retiree, if I had a fairly limited budget looking for conservative returns, I think I'd probably look towards more some of the InvestSMART balanced income and growth portfolios, because I feel they are much more broadly based. They're much closer to the overall index. I'm looking for Intelligent Investor as maybe Ferrari is the wrong word, but for me it's that part of my portfolio that really is seeking the higher returns. I'm expecting it to outperform at times, and certainly the outperformance recently has been, really quite extraordinary.